Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the January 26, 2018, very, very special edition. It's our UK edition of the Intuit Developer Friday Morning Hangout. So technically in the UK right now, it's lunchtime. Is that correct, Alex?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So it's a little bright and early for me. I think right now it's 5 a.m. my time. Very, very super early. I'm your host, David Leary. I am Intuit's Global Small Business Ecosystem Evangelist. You can follow me on Twitter at David Leary. Today we have a special guest, Alex Lakatos. He's the Nexmo Developer Evangelist. He's joining us to talk about all the cool things you can do with the Nexmo APIs at the upcoming Small Business Hackathon. So I'm going to just cover some housekeeping type stuff, and then we'll hand things over to Alex. If my click works, let's try one more time. There we go. So one of the things to always keep in mind, on September 16th, or I'm sorry, August 15th, 2018 is the final day for you to get your app signed up for the Small Business App Showdown. This will be the third year we're doing the Showdown. So you want to create your app, build your app, integrate with QuickBooks Online, get your app on apps.com. That qualifies you for the App Showdown. And then you want to come to this site, smallbizappshowdown.com, and register your app. It's just a matter of saying, yes, I want to be in the contest. And then what we do is we have a public voting phase. We look at your connections. There's an evaluation process. And then eventually the top 10 finalists are chosen. We take the top 10 finalists to QuickBooks Connect in San Jose, and they pitch, and the winner takes home $100,000. So it's a really cool contest. It's a really good way for developers that are new to our platform to get some exposure. In general, it's just a very exciting event and to take part in. And my screenshot of this is a little old, so it's really, I think, 201 days as of right now you have left to enter this contest. And in a couple weeks, we will be in London. So we are going to be in QuickBooks Connect London. It's the 27th and 28th of February. This is the main site. If you go there, you'll see the agenda, the speakers, the pricing. So we will have some developer sessions at that event. This photo that's on the website, that's actually Abby True. Abby True came to our hackathon last year. They won the hackathon last year, and they are now launching on apps.com, and they have an app that's fully baked and is being released to market, which is really, really exciting. And then this is the main reason we're all here on this Hangout today, is really to talk about the Small Business Hackathon London. So we're coming to London. It's going to be at Code Node again, just like it was last year. It's the 24th and 25th. It's an amazing venue. It's an amazing event. We're going to we'll feed you, we'll take care of you, and you just come in and code, and the winner takes home 5,000 pounds. And you can go there at smallbizhacklondon.com. And then, like always, you can find all our events, including the hackathons and hangouts like this one, at developer.intuit.com/hub/events. So without further ado, let me stop sharing here and introduce Alex. Alex, I guess for those of you watching, it's going to be good afternoon. I think for me, it's good morning. And I think for you, you're in a whole nother time zone. Is this correct?
Yeah, so I'm in Romania right now. That's 2 hours ahead of London. So for me, it's like early afternoon here. I'm gonna skid away from all the time zone madness and say hi all. I'm Alex, and I'm a JavaScript developer evangelist for Nexmo. In case you haven't heard of Nexmo yet, Nexmo is a global cloud communication platform that has APIs for numbers, SMS, voice. We do two-factor authentication with our verified product. You can do number querying with number insights and stuff like that. We've also recently launched in-app messaging. You can go on our blog, check the blog post, and basically sign up for the developer preview if you want to test that out. Today, I'm going to show you a few of the basic things you can do with Nexmo, and then I'm going to play around with the WebSocket. So basically, we're going to see how to send an SMS, how to receive an SMS, how to make a phone call and receive a phone call, and then how to connect the call to a WebSocket so you can basically use your browser as a phone. Before we start, you have to have a few things set up. The first one is the Nexmo CLI. Now, I'm not going to test the gods of Wi-Fi to actually run this live on Wi-Fi, but the command to install it is npm install -g nexmo-cli. And what that does, it gives you the Nexmo CLI on your computer. Now you also need a Nexmo account. So if you go to dashboard, dashboard.nexmo.com, and you create an account, you get to this page, which is basically the getting started page. We have a few examples in there. For example, how to send an SMS using URL instead of wrapper libraries. So on top of the REST API, you can call it with whatever you want. But on top of it, we offer 6 wrapper libraries in 6 languages. I'm sure I'm gonna miss one, but I'm gonna try to list them all. So we've got Node, we've got Java, we've got Python, Ruby, PHP, and .NET. Okay, so I got all 6 of them. I'm not gonna actually run this in my terminal because then you would see my API secret. Seeing as how last time I was on this Hangout, I showed the world my API secret. Let's not do that again. Okay. So I'm going to actually show you how to do this in Node. I'm a JavaScript developer advocate. Node is my my playground. If you want to follow along or do this with any other library, we've got stuff on our GitHub account, which is github.com/Nexmo, and you can see the libraries we have in there and example code for each of them, so you can run the same examples as I am. Now, if you want to follow up after this, or you've got questions, or you're seeing this on YouTube instead of being live here with us, you can reach me on Twitter at Lakatos88. I have open DMs. Feel free to ask me anything. Or if you want to email, the DevRel team at Nexmo has an email account we each chip in and answer. It's called devrel@nexmo.com. So I already set up my CLI, and I've got a config file that has my API key and secret, and then an environment for the numbers I'm using and the apps I'm using and stuff like that. We're gonna ignore that for a second because it's not really relevant to the example. Let's see if we send out an SMS. I think I'm live streaming on YouTube. Let's just refresh that a second. Okay, that's okay. Because I'm streaming with YouTube Gaming. This has a 10 seconds delay. We're gonna have to wait just a bit until I make an action and it actually appears on the screen. So let's try to send out SMS. So to do that, you first have to do npm install Nexmo, and that gives you the Nexmo node library, the wrapper library. Now, to send out an SMS, you have to obviously require Nexmo and then create the Nexmo instance. A Nexmo instance has an API key and secret as the minimum requirements to create an instance. You get your API key and secret if you go to the dashboard. On the front page, you have key and secret right there. Now, after you've created the Nexmo instance, you can start using it. To send out an SMS is just one function. It's nexmo.messages.sendSMS. And then for this, it's actually the parameters are config. So it takes a from number, a to number, then your message, and at the end of it has a callback, which I'm using right now to show error logs or results. So let's see what happens when I try to send an SMS. I'm gonna do node send SMS. I get a request back from the server, which is showing the JSON I got back, and then if I go to my stream, hopefully you'll see an SMS. I got it on my phone, so it should take like 5 more seconds for you to see it on the screen. Okay, yeah. So I just got an SMS from my Nexmo number. If I go ahead and open it, it just says hello, the thing I just sent. So it's really easy to basically send out a SMS notification using Nexmo. Now, what happens if you want to interact with other people via SMS? So you want to receive an SMS. In order to actually receive an SMS, you don't have to do anything on anything, like you don't have to have any Nexmo related code in there. My example actually has some Nexmo related code in there because I'm actually interacting with people who send me SMS and sending back a coupon code. The coupon code is active until the end of the month. If you want to send out an SMS, I'm going to keep this server running throughout these days, so you get the coupon code back whenever you SMS it. That gives you 10 euros credit on your account. You usually have 2 euros when you sign up. And with the coupon code, you get an extra 10 euros so you can play around. In terms of how much is that going to give you, how much playtime is that going to give you? Well, usually a number in the UK is like 67p or something. And then an SMS is 1p. So it gives you quite a bit of room to play with. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually creating an express server because receiving SMSs works on a technology called webhooks. Basically, whenever your Nexmo number receives an SMS, it sends it via webhook to your URL, and then you're in charge of basically processing that. So I'm creating an express server here, and I'm listening on port 3000. And basically, I'm saying whenever I get a post on my inbound URL, I'm going to log my SMS to the console so we can all see it. But also, I've added here a little Nexmo code that basically sends back an SMS with a coupon code. And that's it. So in order for this to happen, you have to have a web URL accessible to the outside world. Instead of deploying to Heroku or to any live environment, I'm going to use something called ngrok. Ngrok is a little tool that basically routes my localhost traffic to the outside world. So I already have it downloaded, and the way you run it is ngrok and then HTTP. And I'm going to run it on port 3000 because that's where my my app lives. I'm going to start my ngrok. And what ngrok does, it gives you an URL which is accessible to the outside world. Let's see how that looks. So for now, it's going to be empty because I have nothing running on localhost. It also gives you a localhost URL, which shows you every bit of traffic that's happening on ngrok. So we're going to be able to see what happens on post and get and stuff like that, because I just did the get and nothing happened. Now, you have to go on your Nexmo dashboard. You have to go to numbers. If you don't already have a number, you'll have to buy one from here. Now, I already have a bunch of numbers bought, so I'm going to use one that I already bought. Let's say I'm going to use my, let's say I'm going to use my Romania one because I'm in Romania right now. So what I'm doing is I'm gonna have to update this SMS webhook URL, and that's by taking the ngrok URL, and my express server has a method called inbound, so I'm going to use that. And now I'm going to run. I'm going to run the node server. Now it started. It's listening on port 3000. Let's see what happens when I try to send out an SMS to that number. Let's see really quick what the number was again. So this is my Nexmo number. Okay, let's wait for the Hangout to update. I'm just gonna send an SMS. Okay, so I just sent an SMS. My webhook picked up the event sent by Nexmo that says, this is your text message, this is the JSON I got, and then, oh, I sent back something to that number. As you can see, the stream is just updating. That's me sending out an SMS, and I should get a message back in a few seconds. Now, so we saw how you send out an SMS and how you receive an SMS. And for the receiving part, you technically need no Nexmo library interaction. You just have to set up your webhook on your number. We have two types of webhooks. One of them works on a number basis, so you can set it up on your number, or if you go to your account under settings, you can set up a webhook that works on all your numbers across your account, and basically you get an event from any number you get an SMS into. Now for voice, if you want to make a voice call, I showed you the initial Nexmo object, which just needs an API key and secret. For voice, it's a bit more complicated. You also have to create an application on the Nexmo platform, and you're going to have to, in order to make a call, you're going to have an API key and an API secret, as well as application ID and the private key set up in there to get the Nexmo instance that can handle calls for you. Now, there's a few different ways to create the Nexmo application. One of them is going in our dashboard under voice and then create an application. My favorite way of doing it is going back to the console. You probably saw by now I'm a console junkie. So going back to the console, and then you can use the Nexmo CLI you just installed to do Nexmo app create. And then this takes 3 parameters, basically. One of them is the application name, and this is and then it has an event URL and an answer URL. So for now, we're going to just ignore that because we're not doing anything with it. We only use that when you get a call into your number. To make a call, we don't actually go to any of those URL. We're going to set them to ngrok, though. And we're going to put them on the same inbound as we did for SMS. So this is the answer URL, and this is the event URL. And then I'm going to say my key file should be saved as private key. And this gives me back an application ID and the location for the private key. Now I'm going to use that in my application to make a call. So I'm going to change the application ID in here really quick. And I'm going to say my private key is located there. Now, when you create a call, you have something we call a Nexmo call control object, which is basically an object that tells the phone call how to behave. And what this does is it tells Nexmo to call my number from my Nexmo number. So it tells it to call my physical number from my virtual number on the Nexmo platform, and then use this as the answer URL, not the answer URL I gave to the application. If we take a look at the link here, what this does is Um, this is an Nexmo call control object that says the action I want you to take is talk. I want to use a voice name, which is called Chipmunk, and then I want you to say out this text into the phone call. I'm gonna just quickly shift my streaming to my phone instead of my messages. And if you go to like this whole NCCO flow is documented really well on our developer documentations website, which is developer.nexmo.com. And it shows you everything you can do with an NCCO and the NCCO reference. You can use this to record the conversation, to talk into a conversation, basically stream an audio file to it, or connect call, for example, to a browser instead of another call. So let's stream this really quickly. Okay, now the stream should be updated with my phone instead of my messages.
There it is.
Perfect. Now let's make the phone call, and in order to do that, we're gonna call our file, which is called make a call. Okay, so you can see it made an HTTP request with my authentication token. I just got a call.
This is Chipmunk. I am created with Nexmo API. So glad I could talk to you today. Hope you're enjoying the Hangout so far.
Okay, so I just received a phone call, and the Chipmunk voice greeted me and told me basically he used text-to-speech to do the text I just sent it back to me. You can customize a bunch of things about this. You can have speak synthesis markup language, which basically tells you how to enunciate different numbers or different words, or how to treat digits, like digits inside the number as digits with a pause and stuff like that. You can use a different voice name. We have a bunch of voices available for different languages. You can go on our Next Developer platform and look for that, for example, for voice names. And you can see all the available voice names and the languages and their genders in there. And you can use any of those. So this was how to make a phone call. We use the Nexmo node library in order to make a phone call. Let's see what happens when we want to receive a call. So when we want to receive a call, is basically we're creating an express server because we need the webhooks for those answer URL and event URL. So what we're going to do is on get, we're implementing the answer URL, and that basically says, look, this is the NCCO I want you to serve when someone calls this Nexmo number, and it's a simple NCCO that says the action is talk, and thanks for calling Alex. And then when you're posting on inbound, that's our event URL, and that's where Nexmo sends events about the stuff that happens in a conversation. We're gonna see what happens when we actually do that. Let's see if our ngrok is still running. Perfect. Let's go to the application we just created though and associate the Nexmo number I have with the application. So my application ID was something with 20. Okay. So we're gonna go to the dashboard. You can probably see my application in my list here somewhere. but the fact that I have maybe like 50 or 60 applications isn't helping right now. So we're going to go to numbers. And then for my Nexmo number, the one I used for SMS, we're going to use the same one. So there's a voice section that says, I want this. It usually goes like this, and it says, I want to forward this number to an application, and then I get to select an application ID. I guess this is the one. I'm sorry. So what this does is it tells my number whenever someone wants to interact with it, go to this application and use the answer URL and the event URL to figure out what to do next with your call. So let's see what happens when I try to call the Nexmo number. Let's first start the server. So we're gonna run this. So it's basically listening on port 3000, and whenever the call starts, I should get all the events in here. They should be able to see all the events coming in. Okay, so I just called my my number.
Thank you for calling, Alex.
And I got the text speech action that said, thank you for calling Alex. Now, as you can see, all the events that happen in the conversation, in the phone call, are being dumped here, which is basically, I got the ringing event, then I got the call started event because I answered the call, and I get a bunch of information about the numbers, how much it cost me per minute, and stuff like that. And then I got a completed event at the end of it with all the information about the conversation that just happened. So this is a fairly simple use case for calling into a Nexmo number. Let's see what else can we do with it. So what happens if I want to connect to phones, or better yet, what happens if I want to connect a phone to a browser? So we have WebSocket support on our calls. I've got this little project from our community GitHub account downloaded here. It's called WS Phone, as in WebSocket Phone. You can go and, yeah, so you can go basically clone this and play around with it. What it does, it shows you a user interface for calling a number. It basically tells you to call a number and enter a PIN code. You'll have to, in order to make this work, you'll have to either npm install after you clone or yard install. Both of them work, and you're going to have to export an inbound number and then run the Node application. But before you do that, you're going to have to have your Nexmo number associated with an application that has a very specific endpoint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new application and change my endpoints for that.
Hey, Alex, before you kind of jump into that, so up to this point, you've really shown like everything's very event trigger based, right? So and which is nice because small businesses and like at our hackathon, there's events, right? Like, oh, that invoice is overdue, or they need to pay the invoice, and you could send them a text, you need to pay your invoice, right? Very event based, and there's lots of events that happen. So what's kind of a use case, or what? Why would I need to use like this web interface?
Okay, so one of the common use cases are, well, what happens when you wanna interact with the call? For example, a few of our customers use it for sentiment analysis. So what they do is they connect the phone call to a WebSocket, and then the WebSocket gets connected to something like IBM Watson, and they do real-time sentiment analysis on the call. So whenever you call a customer, right, and you want to figure out if he's happy with you or if he's angry with you, that's one of the use cases.
Got it. Okay.
So Nexmo right now has, for example, text-to-speech, but the API doesn't have speech-to-text. So you get the recording at the end of your call. If you want to record the call, you get the recording, which is an audio file. What happens if you want to have a transcript of your call? So you have to connect the call to a WebSocket, and then via the WebSocket, connect that to some sort of Google speech to text engine that gives you the transcript of your conversation. And Google's actually really good at this because it kind of figures out context from the audio and stuff like that. So you can actually have a pretty accurate transcript of your phone call instead of having to listen to it. You can just look through the text. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Yes, perfect.
Okay. So I'm gonna go and create a different application. Let's just use this one. Okay, so I just created another application. I should get an application ID back. Now I'm gonna go to my Nexmo dashboard. I'm gonna edit my number to associate it with a different application. So, the new application was FB22. Okay, so this is my new application. I'm gonna use that as my new application to interact with this number. Now I need to set up an inbound number in order for this to work, and this is gonna get displayed on my screen. And then I can just run node and my cool. So this is listening on port 3000 now. If I go into my browser, into the ngrok URL, so what this does is I can see myself in there and the audio being represented. It instructs me to call this number and enter a PIN when prompted. So I'm gonna just go ahead and do that.
Enter that code on your screen now. Connecting you.
Okay, so now I'm connected to my. Okay, I just got feedback and lots of it. Okay, better with the feedback now. So you can see the audio from my microphone and then the audio from the voice call being represented there, and that means I just connected my my phone to a browser. We're gonna take a look. I'm gonna close that because there's a lot of feedback. We're gonna take a look at how I did that, and the way I did this is, so on the answer URL, I'm actually instructing the call to talk and say enter that code on your screen now, and then I'm accepting user input. So basically, you can use the call to accept user input from this input URL I just constructed here, and it says you have 10 seconds to do it, and you can only input 4 digits. And after this happened, after the user put in the PIN code, I'm just basically talking back saying I'm connecting you, and then I proceed to connecting the call to an endpoint, which is of type WebSocket and has this WebSocket URL. And there's the content type is audio, and the rate is 16 hertz. You can play around with the rate in the browser later on. My demo actually takes the 16K rate and converts it to 44K in the browser, so I can do a better visualization of it. If your PIN code wasn't correct, I'm gonna say I couldn't find a matching call for you, sorry, and that's it. Now this is the math about generating the PIN number, which is basically not that complex. And then I have to have a WebSocket server on, and on connecting, I'm basically sending a bunch of stuff into the WebSocket. Whenever I get a message, I proxy that back to the browser so I can update it on the screen. I have this little index HTML here that basically takes the WebSocket audio and the microphone audio from my browser and puts them in a canvas, and that's it. Instead of connecting it to your browser and putting it on screen, you can connect it to something like IBM Watson, or we have something called the Lex connector. So if you want to interact with Alexa right now, you usually use an Alexa device, right? What happens if you don't have an Alexa device? You can just use your phone and make a phone call to Alexa and talk to Alexa on the phone instead of using your device, which is a different use case for WebSockets, I guess. Okay, I think I'm done with the demo part of this. If you have any questions for me, now would be a good time.
Yeah, if you have any questions, those of you watching live in the audience, please use the Q&A panel. And I'm just gonna make sure I have that opened up so I can see if any questions come in. Nothing just yet, Alex. So I think previously we've had Nexmo 2 hackathons before. This will be the third one. I think for you personally, it's your second one that you're coming to our hackathon. What are some of the coolest things you've seen built with the Nexmo APIs?
Okay, so I saw. I think one of my favorites was connecting the phone call to a WebSocket, and then using that WebSocket to figure out basically if your customer is angry. And the second your customer is angry, you transfer him to a manager or someone in charge. There's been some other cool hacks in there. I think I've seen SMS interaction with the one in San Jose. I think I saw SMS interaction with QuickBooks using your phone as an interface to interact with your account instead of actually having to open up a browser. I think I've seen it used as a fallback, so different levels of escalation. Basically, your invoice is due, you're going to send out an SMS. Your invoice is late, you're going to make a phone call because, well, you can't really ignore, you can ignore SMS, but having a phone call kind of increases the urgency of that. And stuff like that. I personally want to see some cool hacks around WebSockets. It's a pretty interesting technology. It's really versatile. You can basically connect the WebSocket to a bunch of different services out there online. I think I saw something about ordering your your next item via voice, via Alexa or something like that. I personally want to see more around WebSocket this time around.
Is there any type of payments API for Nexmo? So if or a way to handle that, maybe the use case is it's either making a phone call or it's sending out a text. Say, hey, your invoice is overdue. You owe me this money. Pay this now. To where that end user could read the credit card number into the phone and then have those payments type that processed?
So I think you need to implement the payment processing on your server.
Okay.
So you can use Nexmo as an input device for that, but then you have to process the payment with something like Stripe or your own payment processor.
Or Intuit
Or
payments.
stuff like that.
Got it. That makes sense. Cool. So no questions right now coming in. At the hackathon, are you going to give out any prizes?
Yes, we're going to give out any prizes. We're going to give out prizes. We're kind of split in the team right now about what we're going to give as prizes.
Okay.
I personally enjoyed the BB90s we gave out in San Jose. We're looking at some other stuff right now. I don't think there's a final decision yet, but I'm gonna tweet out about it as soon as I know for sure what prizes we're gonna give out this time.
So everybody, make sure you're following Alex on Twitter then, so you can keep track of when those prize announcements go out.
This was in no way a shameless plug to get more Twitter followers. No.
It's a good strategy though. Cool. I think I saw a couple little bit complicated hacks before at San Jose. I think people they used Nexmo's, the voice APIs of Nexmo, and they passed that data to Google's assistant engine, right? Which is essentially what's under the cover. They're starting to call it Google Assistant, but I think for a lot of people, they're more familiar with it as it's Google Home. Right. And so they're passing that to what powers Google Home under the covers. And so, you're interacting with Google Home just by using the voice. You're really getting the benefits of that, which is pretty cool.
I think so. There's a lot of assistants out there right now. I think Microsoft just announced that they're going to release their own. Basically, if you don't have the device, it's not really easy to interact with them. But if you can do it from a phone, if you can make it easy for users to interact from a phone instead of having to create that logic in your application, that's even easier. So I think they used actions on Google to basically have a conversation over the phone without them actually having to be in the conversation. So as a user, as a client, basically, you could interact with your with the business without the business actually having to hire more people to scale their customer support and stuff like that.
Yeah, you definitely can see the ties in to appointments, booking appointments, all that really, those administrative type things where it's just busy work, right? And if you can do it, a lot of times they're calling, right? I did it. I ordered some new eyeglasses, and I literally called 6 times to see if my glasses were there. Right? It would have been, and I'm sure that's just busy work for the person I'm talking to at the counter. If they had that automated through Nexmo or something, that I'm sure would be really efficient for both sides.
Yeah, I think that saves small businesses a lot of time, and it would make customers happy because. So what happens for me, when I interact with the business is I basically have to either wait for like 3 minutes for an operator to be available, or I just give up in the process, and I get frustrated about it. But if I had like something like Alexa responding back with the status, and I can interact with that. That would keep me a happy customer. The business would get more revenue, basically, and it would help out everyone around.
Awesome. Perfect. It doesn't look like any of the attendees have any questions. I think you covered everything really, really well and deep. Anything else you forgot, or is anything like what else is coming from Nexmo soon?
Okay, so Nexmo just released a developer preview for our in-app messaging, which basically allows you to create a conversation with your user. One of the problems businesses have is, well, whenever you talk to a business, for example, when I call my bank, as I interact with it via the phone, via web chat, on the phone, there's multiple people, and I have to state my problem over and over again. And that becomes frustrating because every new person I interact with, I have to spend like 3 minutes explaining what my problem is. This in-app messaging feature allows you to have one conversation with the business. That basically solves the problem of having to repeat the problem statement all over again. Whoever joins the conversation can see what happened in the conversation, so it makes it easier to solve your problem and more efficient. If you go to our blog,
So you're kind of unifying that conversation across the different platforms. So I could start interaction with the business over text. It moves to phone. It moves to a web chat, and you're kind of unifying this into one communication thread, if that's the way to think about it.
Exactly. We're basically stitching together pieces of a conversation. If you go to our blog, you can see the announcement about introducing Nexmo in our messaging. And somewhere at the bottom of it, there's a link for you to sign up and request access into the developer preview. I actually happen to manage that alongside with Chris and Eric from my team. So if you want to sign up for that and give it a spin, we'll be more than happy to listen for any feedback you've got. It's really valuable for us, especially in this stage of development, to get as many developers to test it out, to try it out, and to give us feedback back.
So is this something you'd be open to people jumping on and trying to hack on for the hackathon?
Yes, definitely. I'm going to be there. I can give them. So right now we have SDKs for Android, iOS, and JavaScript. I'm more of a JavaScript guy, so if they choose to do it in JavaScript, I'm there to help out. We have docs for Android and iOS as well. But I'd be really happy if people jumped in on this, tried it out, and give us feedback after the hackathon.
Cool. Also, anybody, yes, it's not fully baked with any developer preview, right? You're not going to have everything out of the box ready to go. But if you want to build on something that nobody else is building and do something cool at the hackathon in 4 weeks, show up and Alex will give you access to this. Maybe you said of APIs.
Sign up for this. If it takes more than like a couple of hours to get access, just ping me directly on Twitter. I have open DMs, so just ping me there. I know, another shameless plug for Twitter. If you want to sign up for this and test it out before the hackathon or at the hackathon, we're going to be around to help you out.
Got it. And so it takes a little bit of time for you to spin this up, so they need to contact you ahead of time?
Basically, it's an automated email that goes back to them. Yes, you should definitely do this in advance because it takes just a little bit of time to sign up.
And that's another Nexmo API rattling off. So
sadly, no. That was my phone going off. It's not some dead Nexmo code.
Cool. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Alex. I do appreciate the demos. For the rest of you that are watching this possibly after the fact on YouTube, the next 4 weeks, we are going to have another Small Biz Hack sponsor or partner come on and demo their APIs, just like Alex did today. All of those will be taking place at 12 p.m. London time. And we will see you guys in 4 weeks at the hackathon. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.